what I've done is we're going to start by in this step 2 of UP. It's a little bit of a bit more of an advanced step, and this is just the GUI interface. It's not something that will be examined, but it is something that will help you with your projects and things like that. So it is important to look at, but it is not something that can be examined. Yes.
Is this also going to be on YouTube?
It's streaming currently to YouTube. Okay. Now, what I've got here is I've got I downloaded a deck of cards. Now, I downloaded a full deck of cards so that I can make sure it's similar styles, this, that, and Xing, and whatnot. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole process of this, but I know in my code, I've got a 10 of hearts, which will be a jack of hearts, let's say. I've then got a 7 of clubs and a 12 of clubs and a 7 of spades. So I'm going to just do those ones. I'm going to show you how to do those ones just to create those as separate entity of cards. So I wanted a 7 of what? Clubs, right? Or spades?
10 of hearts.
Okay, so 10 of hearts, which is actually technically a jack of hearts. So let's go jack of hearts. Oh, there's a 10 of hearts. Okay, then 11 would have to be jack. Yeah, I'm confused. So let's do a 10 of hearts. So what I would do is I'd go to the crop function. So if you guys use GIMP, it's an open source graphics program. The crop tool is this with a little knife, so like you would use a cutting knife to cut out something. So in this case, I'll just go and I'll go down to the 10 of hearts. I would suggest what you try to do to make your life easier when coding is you would want to make sure the width and the height is the exact same for every single card. Like I might now be a couple of millimeters off and so forth. So when you do set up your graphics, please make sure that your width and height are the exact same. I'm not going to be so technical right now because it's whatever. Now I'm going to then export it. So you go to File and you go Export As. And now when you're exporting it, you're going to be exporting it as a JPEG or whatnot. If you just save it, you save it as a GIMP project, which will keep the layers, keep the details, keep all the stuff like that in there. So in this case, it can be JPEG or PNG or whatever. But in this case, this is the 10 hearts, right? So I'm just going to call it 10H, and I'm going to call it, you can make it a JPG or a PNG. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to make it a JPEG just because I know that all interfaces can definitely handle that. And I'm going to save it inside my source in a new folder. I'm going to create a folder there called card images. Okay, so I'm going to create a new folder called card images, and I'm going to export that to there. So this is just, okay, export quality 90% is fine. And then I'm just going to go Control Z, so I'll go back to the full cards. And the other card that I wanted to do to make at least my 3 cards to work was 7 of clubs.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So 7 of clubs. So we're going to go and we're going to highlight that there, and then we're going to make we're going to crop to that, and then same thing, File, Export As, and we're then going to save it as 7C. 7C, export. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm only going to do one last one, and that's the 12 of clubs. It was 7 of spades. Sorry, I like it. I also didn't know. So it's fine. So we need 7 of spades. So crop down to that, File, Export, and this will be 7S. So just keep to a naming convention if you are doing things like this. And often if you are doing more graphical processing, a lot of it's got to do with just your different, textures, etc. And keeping your classes, your objects, your different cards, your different things structured and organized is actually makes your life so much easier when coding things like this. And what was the last one? It was 12 of clubs. So 12 of clubs would be a queen of clubs. So basically I'm taking a jack as representing 11, queen would be 12, king will be 13, ace will be 14, or 0, your choice on how you choose to program your thing, or 1, yeah. Okay, so now when I take that down, I'm going to save this, File, Export As, and now and this will be your 12 of clubs. Okay. No, this is XF. Sorry, I didn't export. I said File, Save. XCF is the extension for a. So this will be 12C. Okay. Now that we've got that, I've exported those cards. You'll see inside my card game, inside my GUI design, I'm going to delete this text area because we no longer want to display a text area. We want to display an image. Now, how I would do that is if I put here a label, so I'm just going to go down to the label, There are more special GUI components that specifically deal with images and so forth. We're just going to be doing it the easy, quick way, a nice sort of basic way. In this layout, I'm going to put this set layout. I want to put it as a grid layout. And on this grid layout, I'm going to set the grid layout to be 2 columns. So I'm changing the layout of my container. So my container I've set to be 2 columns, a grid layout of 2 columns by 1 column. And the label is going to be put inside that panel. Oh no, it's inside the wrong panel. Damn it. Okay, let me just Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Let's go back to the beginning. Instead of what you call it here, I want to actually put a panel inside this area, and I want to set this panel layout to be a grid layout, and this panel grid layout I want to be 2 columns by 1 row. And the reason why I want to do that is I'm going to put a label down, and I'm going to put a second label down. So now I've got 2 labels there. Do you guys get that? So now, because I made it a grid layout of 2 columns by that. Now, this one, I'm going to delete the text inside there, and I want to put an image instead. So what you actually do is you can set the icon property of it, and you go to the 3 dots there, and I go to my card images, and I want it to, for example, be a 10H. Well, actually, let's make it a 7S, because we don't have a 7S, or 7C actually. So I go OK, and then you'll see that will put the 7 of clubs there. Do you guys get that? So now let's put the image there. Now if I go to my source code, and I can look in, so if I save all of this, and I go to my source code, I must get rid of these because we don't have this anymore. Okay, if I go to my source code and I open up my generated code, you can see there, set icon will be here somewhere. Here, set jlabel1.set icon new image icon blah blah blah. So here's some code on how it added the 7 of clubs as an image for that card there. Do you guys get that? So now I've got a 7 of clubs as a JPEG, and I can actually use this to work with what I want to. So in other words, if I look at this now, JLabel1, I'm going to rename this to change variable name LBL display. And now what I'm going to do is when I say card 1, I want to get the picture of card 1. So now when I click on display card 1, I want to, in my LBL display, I want to set it to be the card 1's value. Now here's the tricky thing, right? Over here, 10H JPG is the picture value of it, right? So let me just go Control V, and instead of this text here, instead of 7C JPG, I'm going to replace that with plus card 1 dot get picture. So whatever card 1 is, it will get the picture or details of that. But now for 1, okay, it says semicolon expected. I'll figure out what the problem is there. But I know that this should be LBL display. Who needs semicolons? Okay. Alright, so now what's happened is I've got LBL to set the picture of card 1, card 2, and card 3. Now, there is a slight, I don't know how well this is going to work, just for the reason that there's a paint object inside there, which might mean, but let's just test it and we'll see if we do occur the problem that I'm expecting we're going to occur. So here, when I press card 1, it puts 10 of hearts there. Let's check that. But now, if I press card 2, it doesn't do anything, and if I press card 3, it doesn't do anything. The issue is if we go to our source code, have we even set the value for our picture?
Yeah.
Oh, and also the same value here, never mind. Yeah, thank you, yes. Yeah, you're very right, I didn't, so it actually didn't call this, but it's still not going to work, and I'll show you why now. Although it is here, if I press play, card 1 will work, card 2 doesn't work, card 3 doesn't work, but card 1 does work. The reason why is, let me just edit the texture first because that's annoying me. The reason why that doesn't work is if you take a look at our values here, we initialized our card 1 to be 10h.jpg as being the picture. We didn't initialize our card 2, we only initialized the value, sorry, the suite of card 2, and we didn't initialize that here. So there's 2 ways of solving this. One, I should actually just send through the picture value as well. But are you noticing that there's a naming convention that I'm following here anyway? So what I can do is, in my card program, I can look at my, if get picture. Here I've got a return picture, right? So here I'm returning the picture value. But now if I don't have a picture, I don't want to return blank. So what I can do is I can go if else. So I can say if picture is equal to null, meaning that there hasn't been set a picture. Then I want to return something else. Then I'm going to return, I want to return the value of the card, value, plus the suit, plus the .jpg. That follows our naming convention, doesn't it? So now, if I actually did specify what the picture is, return what the picture should be. If I did not specify what the picture should be, guys who aren't directly listening to me, please make sure you are doing constructive work. Chippy Johnson, Shane, are you guys all working? Cool. Okay, sweet. I just need to check up. Alright, so what will happen is you'll notice that this should now work, shouldn't it? For all three of the cards. So let's test it. Press play. And now when I've got my window open here, if I press card 1, card 2, card 2 doesn't work, and card 3 doesn't work. So something's going pear-shaped. That card 1 is still working.
So should he still have assigned them pictures though?
Give me 2 seconds. The reason why I say I haven't assigned them pictures, I have assigned them pictures because inside our card images I've got 12C, 7C, 7S. So something is going slightly pear-shaped. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, no, the code, just when you got back, sir.
Yeah.
To the bottom where you were, sir.
Which one? Of the
with the
card or in the GUI class?
I think it was a card, sir.
Card class, yeah.
Yeah. Is that basically saying if the picture doesn't pop up on the program, it's basically saying just turn the value of the card, the suit, and then including the photo.
It says okay with the null thing. What the null is saying is I'm just wanting to do this so I can see what is going on, so I can see what the mistake is, because something is going pear-shaped and I want to try and find out what it is. Okay, what it's basically saying is here in the GUI, I initialize 10H JPG, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you know why it's not working? In this case, which constructor do I use for card?
Isn't it partial?
My partial. And in this card, what do I use as my constructor?
No. Well, what is it?
The default, right?
Yeah.
So now, in my default constructor, what do I make the picture?
Blank.
Is that null?
No.
It's a blank. So what I actually should have done here in my if statement, so it's saying thank you, you guys actually solved the problem here, is that instead of actually going equals to null, I should have gone dot equals blank. Because it didn't not exist, it does exist, it's just there. Null as if it doesn't exist at all. On from there, it's live YouTube streaming, so I'm not sure if how many health.
Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't bring today. Sorry.
Yeah, fine. Thanks.
Okay, so now what you'll see from there is that so now it should have been equals to blank, but basically the null part, and I'm sorry for it, was if I didn't actually set in the default values, if I didn't set the picture to be nothing, meaning it had not been initialized at all, it would then be null.
Yeah.
But in this case, I actually initialized it as being inverted commas, or I've set it to be blank, so that's why I actually should check if it is equal to blank. Does that clear up your question with regards to what you're saying? What you're saying makes sense. If it doesn't exist, you'll do that.
Okay.
And that's also why it wasn't working, so you actually solved what I was doing wrong.
First time everything, sir.
Not a first time, you're on the ball. Now, what we got here, card 2, okay, so null pointer exception. I'm glad we're having errors, because errors is good. It means we can, if we need to problem solve them. So GUI 25. So here it's saying error null pointer exception. So I'm referring to something that doesn't exist. So 92, line 6. Okay, so we find out, go back down to where default button. Why is it talking about a button now?
Maybe not.
Okay, so we can't pause this because it's live streaming. There's a problem with that. Okay, so we need to try to solve this problem. It's now causing a null pointer exception, but here value would have been initialized. Suite would have been initialized, but null pointer exception, return picture. Init components, JPG, set icon. Maybe it's because 2 instances are running. Let's just close that and see if that helps. Okay, card 1 still works fine. Card 2 throws an error. Okay. Now, what is the only difference between card 1 and card 2? Is the fact that card 1 would directly initialize, it does equal something, and is equal to that. What I might maybe then will do is the following. Let's just try. You guys get what I've done there? It's the same thing, right? If I'm just basically, if it is blank, I just decided to initialize picture to value and suite. Now, it's telling me null pointer exception, and the issue is it's pointing towards image icon. So maybe it's got something to do with the fact that it's pointing to an icon that doesn't exist. So what I think might be happening is our card, the naming conventions haven't quite worked out. In other words, I don't actually have a card named that. So if it's 10s.jpg, maybe it's not actually being correct. So what I'm going to do is before we receive the picture, or I'm going to go here and I'm going to say site tab picture ; space plus picture. So if there's a silly little saying that I say is, if in doubt, print it out. It's a stupid saying, but if I'm battling to figure out where the problem is going to occur, I print it out and I see what's going on, so I can see what's actually happening in the RAM. So now when I press there card 3, you'll see that it says 79.jpg. Do we have any 79.jpg? So something here, it means that our suite, which should be a character, right, is not coming through as a character, it's coming through as an integer.
So you haven't
if this solves it, I'll explain the issue now, but I don't know if this is going to solve it. Okay, it solved it. Now, okay, the reason, okay, sorry, I just wanted to check if it solved it before I explained it. Value is an integer, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I go plus inverted commas, that's how I convert an integer into a string. Now, when it was like this, it's an integer plus a character. So what it did then is it converted the character into integer value of that character. So what I did now is I made sure that first what happened is that I converted my integer into a string, and then I added my character to the JPEG. So it looked like that's why it's 79. But now do you see how the fact that I printed out the value or what was happening, sometimes just printing it to the command line here, site, and out here just allows you to show what's happening, because sometimes you can be a little bit confused on what's happening in the background. Why is it not working? I could now look into what was happening there. Yes.
So what's the whole return principle?
Okay, the return is I am going to be sending back. So in other words, when I call this value, when I say card get picture, it means I'm going to call that method. It's going to run the get picture method.
Yeah.
And then it's going to return a string value because it says it's a string, and that will then be put into here.
Okay.
So whatever is returned by that. So return means I call a method, it returns that value. So when you stipulate the card, like when we added our setters and getters, remember we just went alt insert and we said getters and setters, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've already added all of them, so not there as an option now. But now that would have already said public return type. What its return type is. It's like with the toString. The toString says public, returning a string, toString. Get suit would be public, char, because it's returning a character type, get suit. I'm happy you asked that question. So the return is that you're just returning a value of whatever data type you stipulated in the method header. Okay, I'm going to stop this video because the bell's about to go, and we've covered what I wanted to on this, and we've got it working. So you guys can add this to your program the next lesson. Okay. All right. Goodbye.